Hello and welcome back to my channel. Yes, of course, it's been a while, but here we are, for the end of year list. And this is every album that I've listened to in 2025, ranked from worst to best, or as I like to put it, my least favorite to my number one favorite. Um, and so basically, I'm just going to be going through the same way I did them last year, tier list style. And I'll kind of explain how I put them in each of their tiers as I go through them, basically going from F all the way to S. So let's start off in this first picture. Obviously, I'm just going to talk about F and D together because they're the smallest sections. I think this is a pretty damn good year for music, just in general. So this is just kind of a short little section to go over. So in F, we only have 6 albums here. We have at the very bottom the Carter 6 by Lil Wayne. I think a lot of people have this as their worst project. Kind of surprised to nobody. Very unfortunate, but either way, it's there. Some of just the worst music released from any artist that I have heard this year. Then we have The Leaks by Lil Baby. He released 2 projects this year. He was one of many artists to release 2 projects, and this one was just horrendous. I mean, if people thought that Wham was bad, which I didn't think it was horrible, you can see it's in the D tier, but this was just so bad. I know it's called The Leaks, but my God, dude, actually put some fucking mixing and mastering on these songs because they sound just absolutely horrendous. Like it sounds like it's like clipping through my headphones. It's just mixed horribly. Literally every single feature is bad somehow. Like the redeeming quality, or what should have been the redeeming quality in this album just fell through. Then paired together is The Last One by Gunna and Deep Thoughts by Lil Durk. Both are here because they're just insanely boring albums. Albums that just have literally not a second of runtime where my interest is peaked at all. Gunna has been basically making the same album. This is now like 3 times in a row, but each time just getting worse than the time before. And Lil Durk just making a primarily melodic album, and it sucks. The writing sucks. His past couple albums have all kind of felt the same, and this one is just the worst by far, shockingly. Then we have Escape Room by Tiana Taylor, where at least half the runtime is just interludes of different people just talking about things that feel like they're somewhat love related, but it's like either way, it just all feels so discombobulated and disjointed and unrelated to each other. And then the songs that come between just don't feel like much of a payoff for the weight that you have to get through to get to them. Like the songs are bad. You don't really have a lot of standout features. Yeah, it's just a bad album. And then last in the F tier is More Chaos by Ken Carson. I thought A Great Chaos was massively overrated from when that came out. I think 2 years ago now at this point, and this was just horrible. I literally I think I might have saved 1 song on this whole entire project, and that is, I feel like, probably me being generous, for saving it at least. But yeah, all these other ones just my God, just horrible. Then in the D tier, this is kind of like the widest range in quality for like the bottom project to the top one. So going from the bottom, we have Some Sexy Songs for You by Drake and Party Next Door, Tycoon by Ty Dolla $ign, Haunted by Fame from Offset. Then we have After the Sun Goes Down by Khalid. Then we have Still Shinin' by 4 Bats. Then Wham by Lil Baby. Then UI Scooty by Young Thug. Then we have Jack Boys 2 by Jack Boys. And we have Father Figure by Jon Bellion. Starting at the bottom, we'll put the bottom 5. So for Some Sexy Songs for You, Tycoon, Haunted by Fame, After the Sun Goes Down, and Still Shinin'. this grouping here are albums that I would still consider bad. These are bad albums. They have very little songs that I took out of them. Majority of the runtime I genuinely don't like. I'm not enjoying myself. It is a less than 50% on my enjoyment scale. These are all just varying from there. And then from Wham, UI Scooty, Jack Boys 2, and Father Figure, they're all around a 50%. So they are like borderline enjoyable. And I have to say uh, for Young Thug, for UI Scooty, and John Belling for Father Figure, those were the two that really pained me to be there because when it comes to Young Thug, like him getting released from jail, this should have been the great comeback album that everybody was hoping for and expecting from him, and it just wasn't. And then for John Bellion, him taking a 7-year break from 2018, this also should have been a great comeback album. And you know what? For him and a lot of his hardcore fans, it mostly was. I would have considered myself a hardcore fan pretty much until this album came out. I have a tattoo for John Bellion because he has meant a lot for my music exploration, like in my life. Like, it wasn't for me finding his music, I wouldn't have found a lot of artists who I listen to nowadays due to his sampling and just him talking about all these different people. I should say I don't have a John Bellion tattoo. It's like his collective that he was a part of back in the day. It's a tattoo for them and like that whole artist pack, whatever, and like everything that they did and different people they put me on. Either way, a lot of this, for him saying, oh, now he's not a part of a record label and he's independent, he can do what he wants, a lot of this feels so lifeless, so soulless, and this doesn't feel like he's making music he wants to. It sounds like he's making music to just make sales. Just a lot of bad songwriting or just very generic features that just don't really make sense for him. And if you just look at people he's worked with in the past, it's kind of like, why would you pick these people when this is who you've done in the past and you just don't really fit together? Either way, not great. So let's go to the C tier. These are all albums I would say are good at the very least. And then starting from the bottom, going to the top, we have Garden State by Jeremy Zucker, Festival Season from St. John, What Happened to the Streets by 21 Savage, Jonathan by Young Lean, 7 Piano Sketches by Andre 3000, No Hard Feelings, the collaborative project from Marky Basie and Nick Nack, Diabolical by Toby Lou, Days Before Dream Boy by Lil Nas X, Rocket by Dominic Fike, Lonely at the Top from Joey Badass, Hypocrite by Versace, Paid in Memories by Jesse Reyes, I'm Only Fucking Myself by Lola Young, No Rush by Tokyo Tea Room, Orange by Emotional Oranges, Heels Have Eyes 3 by Westside Gunn, A Futuristic Summer by Metro Boomin, Blush by Kevin Abstract, Heels Have Eyes 2 by Westside Gunn, and Chiari by Offset. So the C tier, like I said, it's all good albums. I would say for the majority of the runtime, I enjoy them. I think they're pretty decent, but overall, nothing to really write home about. They have, a couple of really strong highlights and maybe some good concepts, but just don't fully, get all the way through with them, such as like Garden State, where Jeremy Zucker has a lot of writing about, what it was like growing up and leaving his hometown and trying to move on with his life to pursue his music career. But that message doesn't really come through the entire album, and a lot of the writing on the album falls short, which is why it's at the very bottom of the C tier, like just barely made it. And so, like, kind of similar to that. Other albums like Lonely at the Top, by Joey Badass is just an okay album. I think technically it is a mixtape, but you know what? It was like a big official release, so it's here. And it's just okay. It's got a couple good standout tracks. I wouldn't say there's any real bad tracks on it. Just kind of a lot of middle of the road stuff. The Heels Have Eyes, personally, I know a lot of people really liked these. I thought they were decent. I have a couple of standouts from each one, but as a whole, I'm really just not a bigger fan of these two projects of the three that West Side Gun put out this year. Um, a Futuristic Summer, I thought was a really fun concept of a project where Metro Boomin took it back to the 2000s, early 2010s Atlanta trap sound. I do just think that the project was too long and it was 2 discs. It really could have been cut down to one because by the end of the second one, it's like, man, it really feels like it's been stretching itself thin, which I think it did. He could have honed in on the features a little bit more. Some of those people, I think they really dropped the ball on their performances, and some people really outshined others. When it comes to Blush by Kevin Abstract, to me, this just feels like he is trying to kind of rekindle that fire of Brockhampton. And I know he says that this isn't like a Brockhampton 2. It definitely is. Listening to this project, you cannot convince me that this is not him just trying to redo and recapture the lightning in a bottle that was Brockhampton. Brockhampton is a band and a music collective that means a lot to me. And this just felt like basically a shell of that. Are there great songs on here? Yes. Are there people who have some fantastic performances? Of course. But just as a whole, it feels really messy, really thrown together. And I just think when you have also some of the technical issues on this, where like the mixing and the mastering sounds bad, different people's microphones sound inconsistent to others. I just can't put it any higher than where it is here. I would love to see a world where Kevin redoes this, like basically the same album but better. Unfortunately, we just didn't get that. For Chiari, I think the last album I'll talk about in this section, because like I said, the rest of these are all just decent. Chiari, I just really had high expectations for Offset. I thought that his last project, I can't remember what it was called, the one with the explosion, him like exploding downwards with the city above him. I thought that was a step up from Father of Four, and I thought this would be another like linear progression of this being even better than the last project, which is better than the one before that. But I don't think it was. This might be his worst solo album. I'm not sure. It might be a little bit above Father of Four. I'd have to listen to them like back to back. But I was just really hoping that the kind of concept, although it was definitely him copying Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers with the whole therapy thing, I was hoping that would follow through a little bit more. We'd get some deeper, serious talk on here, but we didn't. Got some good bangers on here, a couple of good introspective tracks, but really nothing to write home about. Then we go to the B tier. These are all albums I would say are anywhere from good to great. I would say the very top of these are great. And yes, we got a lot of experimentation on here. That's kind of the big theme, is a lot of these projects are either experimental or experimental for the artist who made them. So going from the bottom to top, we have Music by Playboi Carti, a very divisive release from this year. We have The Longest Weekend by TWRP, Tupperware Remix Party, or as I just like to call them, Twerp for short. You Can't Kill God with Bullets by Conway the Machine, The Crux by Joe, Angel Heights by, I don't know if it's pronounced Oshua or Oshua, K1 by Kamo, Pressure by Julia Wolf, Excelsior, sorry, I don't know why I totally just blanked. Excelsior by Benny the Butcher, Fancy That by Pink Pantheress, Glockavelli by Key Glock, Coffee by Saba, Breach by 21 Pilots, Ain't No Damn Way by K Tronada, Life is Beautiful from The Alchemist, 2 Chainz, and Larry June, Melt by Not For Radio, 12 by West Side Gun, Love Jones by They, The Voices Are Coming Back by Pearly Drops, Surface Tension by Dev Lemons, Equus Asinus by Men I Trust, and Don't Tap the Glass by Tyler the Creator. So starting at the very bottom, kind of the big probably one of the biggest releases of this year was music by Playboi Carti, and I think a lot of people have agreed that this is a very divisive project, and not in the sense of like, well, some people think it's the greatest project of all time, some people think it's the worst. It's just divisive in the sense of like how many songs on here he put on, and how many just aren't good, and then which ones people like and which ones people don't. I would say I like majority of the tracks, but I think that also majority of the tracks could have been cut. This project came out and it's like 30 songs, I think, which the fact that it's even longer than Whole Lotta Red is insane. Um, Unfortunately, I don't think this is going to get the Whole Lotta Red treatment where give it like 2 years and people are going to be like, holy shit, this is like way better than we said it was. I think a lot of this kind of just speaks for itself right now as it is. This it's gonna stay in this spot. Whereas like Whole Lotta Red, when I first listened to it, I just did not like it. I didn't think it was the worst thing in the world. Just didn't really like it. But now I would probably put it in like if I was gonna put it like rate my enjoyment for it, I would give it like an 80 something percent. So I massively increased my enjoyment on it. As it got older. But this one kind of just middle of the road and for his releases, and he just should have trimmed it down, and he could have made maybe A tier or a higher B tier. Temporary Remix Party. This is just another really fun project from them. I think this is probably their best album that they've released. Conway the Machine with You Can't Kill God with Bullets. I think that this is a good project from him, if not a great one. I just think that I really didn't give myself enough time to fall in love with this one like I have with a couple of his past projects, and I don't think anything is going to beat God Don't Make Mistakes. But this one, as I listen to more and more of it, it is getting closer to that. Then with Angel Heights, K1, and Pressure, these I kind of all grouped together because I kind of feel the same way about them. They're really good experimental albums, but they just kind of lacked a little bit and just fell short in certain aspects, whether it was on the production, or the vocal performancing, or keeping it experimental enough and not kind of getting stale by the end of it. Yeah, I know people are probably going to be upset that Fancy That is this low in the tier list, but I feel like this is pretty generous for Pink Pantheress. I do still think this is her best project, but with her projects always being so short, it's hard for me to rate them higher because while I think that you can make a short project that is very fulfilling and is perfect, I just feel like for her songs, I always am left wanting more, and not in a good way where I'm like, oh my gosh, like please give me more, like this is so amazing. It's more of like, oh, I don't really feel like this song was fleshed out enough. So I genuinely need more because it feels incomplete. Glockavelli by Key Glock. I feel like this is just another great, consistent project from him. Some of the sample flips on here are insane, and one of the tracks on here is it's going in and out of my top 25 songs of the year. If it makes it, it's going to be like narrowly, so kind of a spoiler for that video, which will be the next one. And yeah, this is just a great, consistent project, but nothing super insane from him. I do think it's one of his best projects, but yeah, just a great project. Would love to see maybe something a little bit different. I think maybe including features. I know it's not his thing, but maybe including features would make this higher just to change things up a little bit more. Coffee from Saba. This is his second release of the year, and this one was like, I think it's like 7 or 8 tracks, and this is him kind of just loosely throwing something together. It's very experimental and short, but I do get a lot more out of this when I'm talking about a short project, when looking at this or Fancy That. This one is seeing an artist kind of push the boundary on his own sound and what he's done before, and so that's why I enjoy it so much and why it kind of ranked so high in the tier list. Breach from 21 Pilots. I'm actually shocked that this made it this far. and I feel like no obligation, for it, as like someone who used to really love 21 Pilots when I was young, and didn't know as much about music, and my music taste wasn't as varied as it is now. But no, this project is actually great. And again, much like Lockavelli, there is a song on here, actually like two songs on this project that are kind of going in and out of my top 25 songs of the year. Some of the best songwriting that 21 Pilots has had in a while, some of the best production they've had in a while. And this is pretty close to being as good as I believe it was their 2018 project, Trench, the one with the vulture on it, which to me is their best project. I don't know if they'll ever top that one. That one is just stellar. Ain't No Damn Way, I do want to say, massively overhated. I know it is not a typical Kaytranada project where it's featuring a bunch of different vocalists who are, singing or rapping over EDM beats, but this one is just a straight EDM project. And as I've gotten older, I'm just enjoying EDM music more. And so this one, from the start to the finish, it feels like one song. Like it feels like just the transitions are seamless from song to song, and if you are not looking at your phone or your computer while listening to this, I will be shocked if you could tell confidently the second that one of the songs switches, because it's so seamlessly transitioned from each one. And I just love that about the project. It gives it massive replay value, but because it is almost entirely straight EDM bass. I am someone who massively values vocals in music. It's not one I revisit a ton, but when I do, it's one I have a lot of fun with. Life is Beautiful from 2 Chainz, Larry June and The Alchemist. This one could have made it higher. Honestly, if Larry June just wasn't kind of so one note on the whole thing. I know it's what a lot of people say about him, but I'm going to tag on to it. He just needs to kind of have a little bit more enthusiasm when he raps, because it makes a lot of his verses kind of boring by the end of the track list. Whereas I'm just kind of like, wow, this could have just been a 2 Chainz and Alchemist project with maybe a couple other features, and it would have been better, I maybe think. But yeah, Melt from Not for Radio. If you are not unfamiliar or missed this release, this is the singer Maria from the Marias, who recently just blew up last year with their release Submarine. This honestly kind of confused me as to why it's a solo project, because I think it easily could have just been their third project. I don't really see why it doesn't really sound different. I was expecting, from how dark the cover is, like Maria's covered in all black. She's got like this see-through top that she has on. Her hair is covering her face mostly. I was expecting a darker sound, and like the dark green of the trees behind her, just it felt very ominous and kind of spooky. And so I was expecting that to reflect in the music, whereas the music kind of feels just a little, it's somber, I would say. Where the most recent album from the Marias has quite a bit of upbeat, up tempo songs on it. This one definitely is more melancholy, but it was just good. It was good. It was great. But I was expecting more from it, and maybe that's my own fault. But that's kind of why it fell short. Is I just haven't really gotten over the fact that I'm like, hey man, I'm glad that you're putting out more music because your voice is great. But also at the same time, this kind of felt like a little bit of a bite off of Men I Trust, which I still think, I haven't shared that hot take. I want to do like a hot take video, but I do think that the Marias kind of, in certain aspects, do bite from Men I Trust, who have kind of been doing the same thing that they have been, but for longer. But people can also say, like, well, Men I Trust has been biting from, X and Y artists, whatever. But that's just my opinion. Love Jones, I would like to highlight this project from the duo called They. If you're unfamiliar, they are an R&B kind of neo-soul outfit who have been, together for a couple years, and I think this is their best project. I really, really enjoyed this one. Probably could have been higher if I listened to it more, but there are some standout tracks on here, like Diamonds and Pearls is probably my favorite song on the project. I would highly recommend that one. It's a pretty quick listen. As for Surface Tension and The Voices Are Coming Back from Dev Lemons and Pearly Drops, these are great experimental, heavily EDM inspired albums. Definitely give those a listen. Equus Asinus is a step in more of a folky acoustic direction for Men I Trust, which I really like. Definitely very somber for them. This is definitely their most, I would say, depressing album. It's not like you'll be super depressed because you're listening to it. Like, it's not like one of those projects, like a Death Consciousness or something. It's not like that where you're gonna be like thinking about your life in like a real introspective way. But just like sonically, it's very depressing, very melancholic. Great for like a nice rainy day. But fantastic. I like the sidestep in that direction for this one, and then you'll see their the project they released after that, Equus Cabalist, spoiler in the next section of the tier list. Don't Tap the Glass from Tyler. I think a lot of people agree. Great project from him, but it's just one to have fun to. And this is kind of like the highest I feel like I could put it, because a couple of tracks I think are kind of just mid, to be honest. But some really great standout tracks that are also possibly cracking my top 25 this year. Still have to adjust that list because I'm going back and forth on so many tracks. Okay, A tier. These are amazing albums. These are albums that I would consider anywhere from an 80 to a 90 something percent. Okay. Starting from the bottom to the top, we have Baby by Dijon, Starline from Chance the Rapper, Equus Cabalist from Men I Trust, Clarity of Cal from Wolfpack, Flowers by Duran Jones and the Indications, Getting Killed by Geese, Deadbeat by Tame Impala, hot take, I know, Son of Spurgey by Daniel Caesar. I'm totally blanking on the Red Veil project name because it just came out, but it shot up this high. Anika? Hold on a second. Let's see it. Red Veil. Sankofa. Sankofa by Red Veil, Stardust by Danny Brown, Essex Honey by Blood Orange, Sable Fable from Bon Iver, and Balloonerism from Mac Miller. All these albums, like I said, they're amazing. And honestly, most of these were really close to cracking my top 10 albums, which, is what the S tier is going to be. When it comes to an album like Baby by Dijon, which I know a lot of people have as their number one album or it's within their top 10, and the fact that it's at the bottom of the A tier, I don't know. There's something about this album where it's very minimalistic, where it's not your typical sort of production, especially from like a neo soul indie R&B artist, where they might be kind of flexing their, different production styles or whatever. It's very minimalistic, and I think that's the hard part I have getting with Dijon's voice. I want to hear this super smooth groove, because I know how well it would fit with him, and he just doesn't give us that on many tracks on this project. And I just want to hear, not necessarily like this super overproduced album. I just want a little bit more from most of the tracks on here, and that's what holds it back for me, because his voice is fantastic. I actually find his voice like very comforting, very familiar in a weird sense. I'm not sure why, but either way, his voice feels very familiar, very comforting, really smooth. But I just want a little bit more on the production side. So hopefully with his next project, I'll kind of get that fulfillment a little bit more. And maybe, I don't know, maybe eventually I'll see the vision when it comes to this project. I also heard, I was watching Headphone Emoji. If you're familiar with that YouTube channel, she had this project in her top 10, and she said hearing the album live changed her perspective on it. So maybe if I end up getting to see him live someday, or just watch a live performance even, maybe that'll help it click a little bit more. When it comes to Starline, I am so happy to say that I'm a Chance the Rapper fan again. Like, because in high school, when he was at his peak, when he had Acid Rap come out in 2013, and then he had in 2016 Coloring Book release. Like, if you were not listening to Chance the Rapper, if you were in high school during that time, I went to high school from 2014 to 2018. If you weren't listening to Chance the Rapper, you're just lying, because his songs were everywhere. They were huge. Everybody was listening to those two projects, or at least one of them. And obviously, the big day, was a big letdown. And it's been 6 years since that released. So I'm just very happy, because very quickly after the big day was released in 2020, he was putting out really good singles. He had those like minimalistic covers. One of them is like it's like the Arthur meme where he's got the fist, and they're all like blocky. I don't know what that art style is called, but either way, he's been putting out good singles for the past 5 years, some of which have made it on here, like the Highs and Lows with Joey Badass. Thank God, because that album, or that song, is phenomenal. But yeah, just great songwriting, great production. Only a couple of misses on here, but even the misses aren't really that big of misses. Just songs I don't really prefer. I wouldn't say there's any horrible songs on the project. Equus Caballus, I know it's kind of basic, but I do really like the EDM, or not EDM, the 80s and synth pop inspired sidestep that Men I Trust took for this project that they released this year. Of their two releases, I just can't lie, it's the one I listen to more. It's the one I think with the better replay value, and the one that honestly fits more occasions. Like I said, the other one's a bit more melancholic, a little bit darker in tone. This one you can kind of throw on at any time, and it's just a good vibe either way. Clarity of Cal by Wolfpack. This is probably their best album that they have released to date. Great replay value. Good features on here, and just overall a super fun track. I would highly, highly recommend them. I don't think that they get enough shine. Flowers by Duran Jones and Indications. I think that this could also be their best project. This is their fourth one, and man, they just show how good they are just with each release. I believe I did a short form review with this, maybe at the top of the year. Either way, check this out. I got one of the songs easily within my top 25 this year, and I would highly recommend it. Getting Killed by Geese. Now, if any people who are, big music nerds watch this, I'm sure they're going to fucking kill me, because Geese is not in the S tier. It's not even touching my top 10, not even touching my top 15. But here's the thing. Let me just tell you, okay? I was a massive fan of 3D Country. I think 3D Country is a great album. I listened to it, I think last year for the first time, and I fell in love, and I was like, man, I wish I would have listened to this the year it came out. I probably would have cracked easily my top 10, if not my top 15 albums of 2023, I think that released. And, it was great, and I was looking forward to the next release. And then this came out, and I listened through it, and I was like, it's a good album, but it just isn't striking with me. I listened through it, and I enjoy it while I listen to it, but I really don't find much of a strive to go back and listen to it more. It's just while I'm listening to it that I am amazed by it. But it doesn't leave me itching to go back for more and more listens like I did with 3D Country. And I know a lot of people have this literally their number one spot or within their top 5 or top 3. But, this is just kind of where I could put it because everything above this has been in heavy rotation since it's been released. Speaking of which, Deadbeat by Tame Impala. I know a lot of people were underwhelmed by this. But like I said, I've been loving more EDM inspired or electronic or dance inspired projects as of lately. All the way back from, I think the album that really turned me on to that was James Blake's most recent solo project, Playing Robots into Heaven, where that took a lot of inspiration from his early DJing days, and he took that and put his spin on his sound with that. And since then, I have loved when artists do that. They take their sound that they normally do and then turn it dancier, put some electronic in there, and that's what this project is. And I really liked it. I think it flows pretty nicely from track to track, and I honestly don't get bored at all. I love this project, and I know I'm gonna just be playing it just for the rest of my life. I have a absolutely super fun time listening to it. So I'm a Spurgey. I would have loved to put this higher, as Daniel Caesar's last project in 2023 was my number one album of the year, with Never Enough. But it just didn't have, like I said, kind of similar to Getting Killed by Geese, just that replay value. It didn't fit as many occasions as I would like it to. Not that necessarily it has to be my number one album of the year. I'm not saying like my number one albums or even my top 10 has to like fit any occasion or go in, but this is a project where I just, maybe because it didn't fit as many occasions, I didn't replay it nearly as much. Some great standout tracks on here. I think there's definitely some songs on here that are some of the best that Daniel Caesar's ever released. But who knows? Maybe in retrospect, with more and more listens, it will raise up in my rankings, like in retrospect. With the Red Veil project, I think that this is just a massively underrated one. It's only this high, or maybe it's only this low because of how late it released, and then I waited like a week or two after it released to listen to it. But great songwriting, great production, and just of course good rapping performances across the whole thing. I like all the features. Just needed more time with it, and partially my fault, but also that's part of the thing of releasing close to the end of the year. Stardust by Danny Brown. Love him working with a bunch of underground, or I guess as underground as some of these people are considered, hyper pop artists. I really like it. I don't give a fuck what all the people say, but like this is like nerdy and it's lame, and Danny Brown needs to get back to like true rap, even though I think this kind of like is true rap. It's him breaking the mold and doing what he wants to do, which is what like the whole hip hop scene is. It's going against the norms, and I love that for him. Again, very electronic, dance inspired, and just great. But just couldn't crack. I would have loved for it to crack my top 10. I was expecting it to, but it's in. A couple songs on there I thought were good, but not great or amazing or whatever. But definitely some songs on here. Like it could have honestly been condensed probably a little bit. Cut like maybe 2 or 3 tracks on here, and it maybe could have raised up a little more. Essex Honey, massively underrated. A definitely step down tonally from Blood Orange's past releases. This one is a lot more somber, melancholic, and I love it. It's very different. I think every single feature on here is great, and I just can't wait to see how this grows on me even more and what step Blood Orange takes next in, just his music career, because this was not what I was expecting. I purposely stayed away from the singles because of how much I liked his last releases. I just thought it would be fun to go in completely blind, and it was. Sable Fable, I honestly thought was going to crack my top 10 for most of the year. And it was in my top 10 for most of the year. It just narrowly got pushed out towards the end. There are a couple projects that came out later that I liked more, and just I just thought were better. But for Bon Iver's last project, I think this is a great way to end it. An artist who I've been following for quite a while now and have just loved. And I think this is a great send off. Absolutely love this project. Again, similar to Essex Honey, I can't wait to see how this grows on me and how much more I'm going to love it as time goes on. Balloonerism from Mac Miller. This one, again, just narrowly escaping my top 10. Most of the year was in my top 10, but just escaped due to a couple other albums pushing it out. But great songwriting, great production. SZA, I think being the one like true feature on here, because there's like Delusional Thomas was just himself, but that's whatever. SZA is great on here. It's just so depressing to see because there are just some songs on here which feel like premonitions of death in a sense. And it's really striking and powerful to hear from where Mac was all the way back in 2014 when this project was made originally. Just goes also to show how timeless it is. The production being made back then, sure, it was probably like kind of redone and remastered and refurbished to sound better. It still holds up great, and it just shows like how good of an artist Mac Miller was and truly what we were robbed of by his early passing. Now for the S tier, the top 10 albums of the year, my top 10 favorite albums of this year. This is it. A couple of these are very predictable. They are, if you know me in real life, these are no surprise. These are the 10 albums I have been replaying constantly throughout this year. And they go from bottom to top. It is Ripe Fruits, Rotten Fall by Choke Cherry, Alfredo 2 by The Alchemist and Freddie Gibbs, God Does Like Ugly by JID, Revenge Seekers by Jane Remover, Let God Sort 'Em Out by Clips, from the private collection of Saba and No ID by Saba and No ID, Hyper Youth by Joey Valence and Bray, Ghost Holding by Venturing, Hurry Up Tomorrow by The Weeknd, and of course, if you can't tell from the hat, Vanisher Horizon Scraper by Quedeca. So going from the bottom, we have Ripe Fruits, Rotten Fall, which, of course, most people, you will not see this anywhere on their list because they don't know about it, because Choke Cherry is a, female rock duo, which I have been following since, I don't even know when they put their first song out. I think 2022, 2021, maybe, when they put their first song out, and it took them a long time to release a couple singles, and then they've kind of gradually been, keeping the ball rolling since then. And last year they released an EP, which I did review, and I have loved more and more as time goes on. I would actually go back and increase my rating of it now in retrospect. But the only reason this isn't higher is came out later in the year, and just would have liked to have spend a little bit more time with it. But the albums at the very top kind of just took precedence on my mind a little bit. Alfredo 2, Freddie Gibbs is just on a roll. He is probably by the end of this decade going to be one of the top rappers of the 2020s. Every single release that he has is great, near perfect, and just another notch in his belt, basically. Not as good as Alfredo 1, in my personal opinion, but pretty damn close. God Does Like Ugly. Again, another another home run, knock it out of the park from JID. There's not much I can say. Is it as good as the Forever Story? No, but there are some insane standout tracks on here, like Community, or You Ugly, or For Keeps, or Wholeheartedly. Just so many. Glory, or Work. insane. Like, just so many good tracks on here. So many different sounds that he taps into. And all of them I love, and just a great track. Revenge Seekers from Chain Remover. At one point, this probably would have been my number 3 album, but the ones all above it I just end up listening to more and more and just liking more and more. Just an insane sidestep in direction for her to take. If you listen to her first 2 projects, you would never in a million years guess this is where she was going to go. This is so maximalist and just balls to the fucking wall sounds. Just all across this, from sampling Palkia's screams from Pokemon to having an insane Danny Brown feature where they're going back and forth rapping. Like, this is just so insane of a project for Jane Remover to release, for anyone to release. There's no one else who could have released this project or a project that sounds even similar to this. Again, an album I can't wait to listen to for the rest of my life and just see how much more I love it as time goes on. Let God Sort 'Em Out, a lot of people's number 1 pick, a lot of people's top rap album of the year. Not personally mine, but it is really damn good. A near perfect album. And one I was like genuinely surprised by, because I will still say, I will go on record in saying that as of right now, this is the only Clips album I have ever heard. Am I a massive rap fan? Yes. Will I get to it soon? Yes. They're on my list for artists in 2026 to listen to and go through their whole discography, which I'm going to do. But as of right now, this is fantastic. I've been a fan of Pusha T for a while. I've listened to all of his solo projects. I just haven't listened to Clips as a whole. But yeah, as for like Pusha T, this is just him in form. I've heard like Malice on features, so seeing him on here and just outshine Pusha T was just great to see. And I love this whole thing. What a fantastic listen. And Pharrell on the production keeps it so consistent and so well done. And all the features were great. From the Private Collection by Saba and No ID, this just narrowly missed out being my top rap album of the year, and depending on the day, it could be my like number 1 album at some days. From this to all the way to Vanisher, it's like all of these kind of trade spots. Although for the most part, Vanisher and Hurry Up Tomorrow stay at the top 2. But yeah, this top 5, I am super proud and sure that this is my top 5 of this year. This is a massively underrated project. It's one of, if not still, at one point it was Saba's highest rated project, and I don't necessarily agree. I still think Few Good Things is better than this project, but this is probably my number 2 for him. Great features across the whole thing. No ID being a fellow artist born from Chicago, them two coming together to create just such lush and vibrant sounds on this whole entire project was just great to see them come together, especially for a legendary producer like No ID to give Saba the acknowledgement to do a whole project with him is really good to see, because Saba is someone who has been making waves for years now without getting a lot of mainstream success. Like, a lot of people will talk about Care for Me and just how much that project means to them and how like heavy of a project it is and how great the songwriting is, but they don't really talk about Saba outside of that. They don't talk about Comfort Zone, or they don't talk about Bucket List Project. They don't talk about Few Good Things. They don't really talk about his singles that he's released all throughout the years. So seeing this kind of getting not necessarily mainstream praise, but a lot heavier praise in the rap sphere, at least online, was really nice to see, because it totally deserves it. Every single song on here is a hitter for me, and a couple songs on here are in battle for which one is going to be in my top 25 songs of the year. Hyper Youth by Joey Valence and Bray. This one is my rap album of the year because of how much I relate to some of the songs on here. The whole concept of the project is growing up, but yet wanting to keep your
youth a part of you, having fun in life while trying to balance the hardships of becoming an adult, growing apart from lifelong friends. Whether that's just not talking to each other anymore or it becoming harder to stay in connection to each other. Every single message on like these serious songs, from Myself or Have to Cry or Disco Tomorrow or Live Right, they all feel like they're written about me. Like when I listen to them, I genuinely like feel super connected to these songs. And then the party songs are just some of the most fun songs to release this year, if not the most fun songs to release of this year from any artist period. Um this album is how I feel in my life right now. Every single song just strikes so close to me, and I love this project, and it's probably just going to mean more to me as time goes on. Ghost Holding by Venturing. If you don't know, this is Jane Remover's side project. So she has two projects technically within my top 10. And a lot of people I know have Revenge Seekers above it, but this project is so fucking good. This is more of a um, alternative rock, shoegaze, noise rock at certain times album, where all of her other stuff is like hyper pop and very online kind of nerdy stuff. But no, this project is fantastic. It is near perfect. I fucking love this. I can guarantee that there is a song on here that is going to be very, very high within my top 25 songs of the year. I almost don't have a lot to say about this project other than it's so fucking good and you should listen to it. Please, please check it out. Hurry Up Tomorrow, I did a whole review on. I'm pretty sure I released it. I don't know. I record a lot of videos and then just don't release them. Um, but yeah, this is a perfect album to me. I don't care what people say. It's a perfect send off for The Weeknd if he continues to make music or not. Um, he is the like number one artist in the world, and he's retiring at the top. He's not letting himself get to a point where his music becomes stagnant or stale, or his songwriting takes a nosedive like a lot of artists do. He's retiring at the top, and I think this is such a bang to go out with. I'm totally fine with this project being like, what is it, like 24 songs or something, and like almost 90 minutes. I don't give a shit. I love listening to this project from front to back. There is not a song I would cut out. There is not a second where I am enthralled with what is going on. Every single song is so good. I love this thing. But not no, I could say I love it as much or, but like the same as I love Vanisher Horizon Scraper from Quedeca. I don't think I put a video out on this or reviewed it. I think this is a perfect album. Um, Quedeca knocking it out of the park. Just yet again, while I don't think that Scrapyard, his last project, was perfect, I do think that I Didn't Mean to Haunt You was perfect. And if I listen to that album when it had originally come out and not like 2 or 3 years later, in 2024, then it probably would have been my top albums of 2021. Um, this album is just so good. I love the fucking concept of this project from front to back. It is so good. Keeps me on the edge of my seat. There isn't a second of time, just like Hurry Up Tomorrow. There's not a second of time where I am not enthralled with what's happening. I love all of it. It's all so good. I don't care about all the people who are like, "Oh, there's no soul. There's no soul in this," and it's all just it's all whatever, and only nerds like this. You have to force yourself to like this. Fuck you. No, you don't. This is just so good. It's great experimentation. This is shit that like no one else is making, and it's super impressive, and I love it. I don't care. Quedeca is gearing up to be one of my favorite artists of all time, and I have no shame in that. I don't care what any fucking music nerd says. This album is great. It's my number one album of the year. That's why I'm wearing the hat right now. And yeah, that is my whole tier list of this year. I listened to 79 new releases. Here is, I will put like right here next to me, here is the entire tier list. It may cover up some of me from bottom to top. If you have disagreements, tell me. There are so many artists who released this year who I wish I would have heard, but I have always stated that I go when a new album releases from someone, even if it's new and people are talking about it, besides clips, because this is the only release that I didn't do this with this year. Um, but like, if there's an artist people are talking about, like, oh my god, this song is so good, or not this song, but like this album is so good, you need to check out this album. It's a brand new release. I will go through and listen to their first project all the way until their newest one, so I can fully see the evolution. I can fully take into account what I'm about to hear and have appreciation for how good the newest thing is or how good they say it's going to be. Um, so that's why there's still so many artists I didn't end up listening to this year, and that's my video. That is all 79 albums that I listened to this year. I hope you enjoyed this. If you disagree with me on any of these, please let me know. If you agree with any of these, please let me know. Let me know what are your top 10, top 5, top 3, whatever, top 1 albums of the year. I would love to know. Please stay tuned. I know I don't release a lot. I'm so inconsistent, but I'm going to be releasing my top 25 songs of the year, as well as, talk about honorable mentions and whatnot as I do. And then, 2026 right around the corner. So we will get that done. This will probably release at the top of 2026. Yeah, I keep saying 2026 is coming, whatever. It's probably going to release after the new year because I think that's how, these lists should be released. It should be released when the year is over and done with, but whatever. Okay. Thank you for watching. I will see you in the next one. Bye now.